Welcome back, my friends, to another episode of TFT Hyperroll with Artart. Today's video is going to end up in a familiar place with a slightly different way of getting there, because I started off with one plan in trying to create a video I've wanted to create for a long time, but ultimately have to give up on that concept for the sake of the overall match. Now, the build I really wanted to go for is something I've been able to do almost every other season, and that is just a tank build, where I go all tank champions, have nothing but defensive items, and ultimately am able to win just because the other teams wear themselves out. Now, I had started with a Nasus, got a Braum out of the NPC round, and then had a chance to get Guardian Heart. I have tried this a bunch of times, and it just never works, but I'm gonna give it another try, take the Guardian Heart, and get to 4 Guardians for the very first round. Now, I have found this always does seem to look good really early. Having 4 Guardians in the first full round, you're really tanky and it's hard for people to get through you. With someone like Nasus doing as much damage as he does, which is 100 damage per second while he's in his ult form, really helped you win early. It's time for our first item choice, and I go ahead and grab the needlessly large rod. Part of the reason is if I can make a Morellonomicon on Nasus, I find that really effective because it's going to give a lot of burn damage to everything around him. And again, you're gonna see from the early game, this looks really strong. And you think, hey, if I can just get these Guardians up to 3 stars and then put the right defensive items on them, maybe I can get through it. But again, I've found from many games that other teams power up so much they're able to take them down towards the end. Which is why when I'm given the opportunity to pick up a Yone, I decide to go for it. The Mirage buff is Warlord's power, so we're going to get stacking health and ability power, which could be really good, especially for Leona, because she will also be a Guardian, and we're going to be able to have a decent number of Guardians in this match, thanks to getting the early Guardian's Heart. And as you can see, it's really them that are carrying us. We'll go ahead and pick up the Giant's Belt for a little extra health. I'll have the hope of getting a Chain Vest a little later on so I can make a Sunfire Cape. And while my Mirage units are gaining health and ability power after each fight, they are not the least of which what is carrying us. As you can see, it is the Guardians who are holding up at this point in the match. It's going to switch because you're going to need the power later on. I just haven't been able to find a full tank build that works. It's time for our second augment, and while Electro Charge 2 is tempting, if I was doing the full tank build, again, I've tried it so many times, so many videos have just been deleted because it just kind of falls apart. So I'm left with Battle Mage or Second Wind. I decide to go with Second Wind because this team will stay up a long time, and that will help keep them going forward. I brought in Nunu in the hopes of keeping the streak alive and allowing Nunu to gain some health and AP from a victory, but this has now kind of reached the point in the match where the Guardian buff starts to fall a little short. Those shields are not big enough to keep you from that kind of damage. For our next item, I want to grab the Negatron Cloak so I can get a little additional healing onto Yone. That will help him stay alive longer. I've also decided to put a Olaf in so that I can take advantage of the Warrior buff so that I'll be putting out a lot more damage. Unfortunately, I've reached that awkward place within this build that I also usually reach when I try to go just Guardians, where the damage output is starting to be more than the Guardians can withstand. I've put the Morellonomicon onto Nasus, but he doesn't even get to ult to apply the full burn. This Lee is just able to eat through our entire team before I even get a chance. Luckily, there are a lot of people who seem to be fighting over the Lee Sin dragonmancer build. And also, this team has 2 gold dragonmancers, neither which have any items or they're using as their dragon blessed hero. They're kind of sticking with Lee Sin. Now, they could have moved those onto either Kaisa or Karma and likely been more effective, but they still almost get through me. It's time for our final augment, and it's prismatic level. And I am really torn between Golden Ticket and Celestial Blessing 3. Golden Ticket might give me the chance to craft the team perfectly, but I cannot pass up the amount of healing that the Celestial Blessing 3 will add. And this one is going to start off looking really good. My Guardians come in and start just sort of holding everyone in place while Yone's working through the backline. But they have Second Wind as well and Thrill of the Hunt, so it allows them to keep gaining health back whenever they get a kill. And just when I think I'm going to be able to overwhelm them, Varus hits me with a stun, and that stops Yone in his place, and we're in trouble. I've picked up an Idas with the thought of replacing one of my Guardians with her once I have the right items. Then I get that Hextech Lifeblade, which can be really, really good in a build like this, since I'm relying on a lot of shielding and healing, and now I have the Celestial 3. So there's a lot of healing to go around, but I really need the right champs for it. We're going to start on Yone because he's going to be attacking a lot, but I'm hoping ultimately to maybe get that over to a Daeja. Now I know I'm going to have to change this eventually, but I'm hoping this will work for now to at least keep me competitive. Yone will do enough damage that he will also heal the team, because that item, the Radiant Hextech, is going to do a lot of healing, and you can kind of see the waves of healing going from Yone to other team members. It allows us to ultimately corner the Xayah and take her out. I roll for a little bit and find Daeja, and now it's time to make some shifts. Say goodbye to Nasus. He served us well, but he does not do well endgame unless you get him up to 3 stars, and even then, it's a little questionable. So we give Daeja the Rage Blade so she can attack fast, the Morellonomicon so she can burn things, and then the extra healing with the Radiant Hextech Gunblade. Now luckily, a quick text to Gary, and I get a Guardian emblem, which is going to allow me to get back up to 6 Guardians, which is going to be key. I find another Daeja and an Idas, so I'm just one away from getting my 2-star dragons in both cases. With that in mind and the feeling that I will be able to get there, I decide to go ahead and make the swap I need to make. I get rid of Pantheon and Braum to put in Idas. My Shimmer Scale item is Draven's Axe, which will be fantastic for Yone, and then an Ionic Spark onto Idas, and I'm hoping I can make it through these next 2 rounds to get to the next level so I can get to 6 Guardian and 6 Mirage with that Nunu on my bench. Or if I can find a Yasuo, I will love that. Now, I was sure I was losing this fight. A Cavalier Shyvana with a Hand of Justice and an Archangel Staff. I thought there was no way I was getting through it, but Daeja came through and blasted the damage charts. And just a little obvious tip before this next fight start, always check whatever you get with Thieves' Gloves. I got dual Zeke's Herald, so I moved Rakan down to give extra speed to Daeja and Yone. And you will see that works out really well, as Daeja's increased attack speed allows her to just power up even faster and keep healing the rest of the team. The Guardian buff is working to keep people up long enough so that Daeja again can just take control of the match. And that winds up leading us into the top 4. Actually, top 3, but I always say top 4. And I brought Nunu in for 1 round, but found a Yasuo in between. So we're going to say goodbye to Nunu, because Yasuo is going to give us that extra little buff along with the getting to 6 Mirage. It'll also give us the 2 Warrior buff. And even though Nunu is a 2-star, I'd rather have the additional Warrior buff and then the potential of getting a 2-star Yasuo down the line. The first team we face is an Aoshin Tempest team, and there's a Radiant Hextech Gunblade on Aoshin along with a Spear of Sojin, and if that dragon gets to do its full cast, I'm going to be wiped. Luckily, as it starts, we do enough damage to take out Aoshin and stay alive. Without Aoshin, the rest of the team goes down fairly easily. But this person is going to potentially be trouble in a little bit if they get to 2 stars. But we have a little 2-star surprise of our own coming because Gary is not done with interfering in this match yet. Thank you, Gary, for the 2-star Yasuo. Now we get to fight the Ghost team, which means one of these teams is going to eliminate the other. This is another pretty intimidating team, although luckily that Aurelion Sol is not a mage champ, and the Guardian buff and our second win is going to help those orbs from being instantly destructive to everyone. The key here is Daeja. She just powers up as she goes, and even as those orbs are going off, she is getting stronger and hanging in there, able to ultimately take out the Lux. And it was ultimately left up to fate, but thankfully, the person who remains in this match is the Aurelion Sol team. I moved Daeja over to the other side just so I can try to get Aurelion Sol down a little quicker. Even though we did get through pretty quickly last time, the faster I can get rid of Aurelion Sol, the less I'm going to have to deal with it. So having her directly in line with Aurelion Sol, so they're taking the full brunt of what Daeja can lay out. As you can see, it puts them out, takes out Lux, and finishes the team off with Yasuo actually leading the damage charts. Hope you enjoyed this video and seeing this slight pivot from Guardians into the Guardian Mirage, and as always, hope you have an absolutely awesome day.